It's over 9,000!
Welcome once again to Final Forum, our more casual version of the show. This is our fourth?
Yeah, fourth, I think.
Fourth Daima discussion. I am Jelly.
And I am Bekinney.
And yeah, this is our more casual version of the show. You know, before we get into it, I actually got a comment from one of our listeners saying, you guys should do more of this. What are you up to? What are you doing? What are you watching? We want to know. We want to. So with that comment made and heard, we'll try. We'll figure out something to do where maybe once a month, maybe every other month, something like that. We'll do these more casual episodes, maybe.
Okay.
And do like, you know, hey, what are you up to? What you watching? What you working on? What you doing? Type of stuff. Because if people want some of that, want some of the banter, want some of the just chilling and hanging out with us, let's give the people what they want.
Sure. Makes sense. Plus, you know, Jelly loves talking about himself, so.
Oh, I love it.
Kind of works.
I'm very good at it, too. But, so when last we left off in Dragon Ball Daima, I forget. No. We left off on an episode that did a lot with the evil third eye, with, I believe, Gomah getting the third eye, but not getting it on yet. It was the episode with the hat.
Yes, the hat. I'm going to need a hat like that at some point, I think.
I think we all need a hat like that.
Everybody should have a hat like that.
So we'll pick it up there with the hat and with them fighting the gendarmerie. They manage to do it. They beat them up. They beat up everyone, and then they face off against the special gendarmerie force, the Great Value Ginyu Force.
Great emphasis on the great value.
It's more or less just played like a joke. They defeat these guys in less than half the episode.
Yep.
They tie them up, and these guys end up not being such bad dudes. Goku's like, I'm hungry, and the one dude's like, hey, you can have my bag of chips.
Well, that was nice of him.
Yeah. This then is also where we, like, reveal... Is this the episode where we revealed who the person with the hat was? I don't see that in here anymore. Yeah.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, it's just some random person. We talked about that in the last episode. Yeah, she wanders into the palace and gives it to give to Gomah, and she's just like some random person.
I mean, he at least pays her pretty well for it. Like, given that he's an evil demon king, like, he at least pays his people well. So
yeah,
there's that.
He says you can take whatever you want, basically. They manage to rescue Dende in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
There's no time to celebrate because Gomah manages to get the eye on his forehead. Which is, actually, that's a pretty funny, like, very Toriyama-esque thing where, you know, he gets this ultimate evil thing that's going to, like, give him this ultimate power-up, and then he, like, struggles to A, get it out of the belt, and then B, get it onto his face.
Yeah, very definitely. It's giving Pilaf energy.
Yeah. That's this episode. This episode was one of those... This was one of the ones I remember when it came out that soured a lot of people on this show.
Okay.
I feel that. I get it. Because this was definitely an episode where all of the things that you were wondering kind of leading up to this show, what's Glorio's kind of allegiance going to be tested and turned out to be? You know, at what point is he going to reveal that he's stabbing everyone in the back.
Yeah.
What's up with Degesu and Gomah? What's their relationship actually like? What's going on with this? What's going on with that? And one of the things that people were worried about was, that's all going to be just swept into the garbage in about 5 seconds, and they're going to fight some big bad. And that pretty much happens in this episode.
Yeah.
Degesu turns on Gomah, kind of, for some reason. It doesn't really... There's no real reason given. And then he just flees or something? It's weird. He's just out of this episode.
I think the idea was that the heroes showed up, and I think Degesu thought that Gomah couldn't stop them because at that point he didn't have the third eye.
Maybe.
And I think that's why he runs, because he's like, uh-oh, sinking ship, I better be a rat, and takes off.
But yeah, Degesu gets like punched by Piccolo, I think, in this episode, and then that's it. He's just knocked out for pretty much the rest of the show until the very end. And yeah, the special Gendarmerie force gets just taken out immediately. You know, Dende just gets saved very easily, and who is this girl? Doesn't matter. And like all those things, right?
Yeah,
just
yeah.
Nothing matters. And it's time to fight the big bad.
Yeah. Makes me makes me sad. There's so much potential, and they just decided to not do anything with it.
Yeah, it's tough. We'd talk about it more as we keep going along, but this show was really, for me, at its best when it was like character interactions and slice of life.
Yeah.
As good as the animation is when there's fights and fight choreography.
And it's really good.
This end battle felt very disconnected for me.
Agreed.
Which brings us then to episode 17, unless you have more on 16.
Nope.
Okay. 17 is like we have the battle against Gomah, essentially. And, you know, we start with immediately they all fight at once. That's kind of a cool thing where like Goku and Do and Ku and Tamagami #1 are all fighting together. That's pretty neat. Yeah. Is this the episode, I can't remember, where Do sees Goku go Super Saiyan 3 and then also does his hair that way?
Yeah.
That's pretty great. That was great.
That was funny.
I liked that a lot. This is also where Arinsu kind of tries to extort the Dragon Balls out of the team. She's like, I'll destroy my 1 if you don't give me your 2. And they're like, okay, whatever.
Sure, let's just capitulate immediately.
They fight, and that's kind of this episode. Is this episode just fighting? Yeah. And Goku goes Super Saiyan 3, and
there's like a couple episodes. I think most of the episodes at this point are mostly just fighting.
So this episode was okay. Mostly, I remember at the time watching this episode and going, okay, if we're going to do the fighting in this episode and then the next episode, then we can have 19 and 20 be the wrap up.
Yeah.
Not the direction the show decided to go in.
Not really.
But that was sort of my thought was, hey, if we're doing the final battle now and then we can finish it in episode 18, then we can have like 2 full episodes of wrap up.
And maybe leading to the next thing, assuming this keeps going.
Not the way the show decided to go. Because then that just brings us to episode 18, basically, where they fight some more.
Is this the episode with Goku's transformation, or was it the last episode?
Both.
Okay, so that's like the thing that gets carried over to the next episode. Okay.
So this episode has Goku as Super Saiyan 3 getting beaten up. Gets knocked down to the ground. As Gomah is about to like destroy him, Neva pops up, gives him some energy, and Goku goes Super Saiyan 4. and the internet broke.
Yeah, pretty much.
And this was where like my issues with the show really solidified. Because Goku goes Super Saiyan 4, and yes, everyone kind of goes, oh, he's got a new form. But that's it.
You'd think Vegeta would be losing his mind.
You'd think anything Vegeta would be doing, literally anything about it. He doesn't. He doesn't react to it. No one really super reacts to it. The whole reason you're supposed to like care that Goku goes Super Saiyan 4 here is because you're supposed to remember it from GT. But GT is very clearly not in the timeline of this show, so within the context of this show itself, that transformation kind of means nothing.
Wait, what's GT?
Exactly. But that's this happens, and everyone was like, oh my god, Super Saiyan 4, and I was like, yeah, but like in the context of this show, it's just...
It's an ass-pull power-up.
Yeah, it just happens.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like, you could probably make that same argument for a lot of moments in Dragon Ball, but this one was really kind of ham-fisted.
This one really didn't feel like there was any build to it even within the episode. Like, okay, Super Saiyan 3 kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I would very much say 1 doesn't, right? It's built up. I mean, it's built up off of a throwaway line by Nappa where he says we should breed Super Saiyans, and Vegeta's like, that's stupid. And it was never intended to be an actual thing, but it gets built up, and then when it finally happens, it's like a cathartic, like, oh yeah. Same with Super Saiyan 2. It is like you're constantly talking about.
Usually, these transformations are associated with something that's actually going on in the context of the story.
You're talking about the level beyond Super Saiyan, okay? And then even Super Saiyan 3, even though that does kind of come out of nowhere, it also comes in the context of, what are we going to do? What is going to be enough to beat this Majin Buu? And then Goku goes, hey, by the way, you thought Super Saiyan 2 was the end? It's not. This is... Goku's about to get beat up. He gets some energy. He goes and turns into a red apish thing. But, like, that's the other thing. In the context of... I know you are not a GT person, and I'll say I'm not. I don't love it, but I don't hate it the way you do, for sure. But in the context of GT, the Super Saiyan 4 transformation kind of makes some sense. He has regrown his tail. Because he's regrown his tail, I always kind of considered it as, this is what would happen if a Saiyan achieved Super Saiyan while having a tail.
Okay.
It makes you more ape-like, but you still retain all of your faculties. In the context of this...
It's like a condensed, like, Mighty Ozaru form.
In the context of this, why does he regrow a tail?
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. And then
like, the other thing I talk about, like, I feel like I've talked about this a couple times. I really like when the anime or the manga harken back to the Ozaru form, right? There's when Goku punches through Piccolo's chest, they show like a brief glimpse of the Ozaru like behind him. Yeah. In the anime version of Goku going Super Saiyan 3, they show it like in his eye, kind of.
Yeah.
This never did that. It never like showed him like harnessing, like it never contextualized it that way.
We can get into this more later, but it almost feels like the entire point of this show was to just show off Super Saiyan 4.
I kind of agree. Then this episode also has Arinsu asking Glorio to make a wish, which he does. And that's the cliffhanger. And then it turns out that he wished for everyone to be adults, because at no point ever was his betrayal or whatever, like his underhandedness revealed to our main characters. I had a problem with that too.
Yeah, they're like constantly lampshading the fact that he's working with Arinsu, and then like you think, oh, okay, this is the moment here where something's gonna spin this all on its head, and we're gonna get something different, and they just chose to not do that.
Like, yeah, he never had that. Our characters never had that moment of realizing they were being betrayed by someone.
I mean, well, they weren't.
Well,
I mean, like when you look at it in aggregate, like it doesn't really matter that they never knew that he might betray them because he didn't.
right. Yes, that's a problem.
Yeah, definitely.
You spent a lot of time, like you said, lampshading. You spent a lot of time building up this character, like constantly calling Arinsu on the side and having these sneaky little looks over his shoulder and trying not to get caught. Meanwhile, if he had just been on their side the whole time, it'd be almost exactly the same.
And I got to be honest, I kind of missed it. But like, what was the reasoning for why he was always working for Arinsu? Did they actually say?
He's supposed to be a World 3 demon, and he got to live in World 1.
Okay. Okay.
Which in the World 3, that is the one thing I'll give this show. Like, World 3 definitely seemed to be fairly heavily oppressed, right? They were getting like taxes collected on them, and if you couldn't pay your taxes, they sucked years off your life. Like, World 3 looked like a bad place to live.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. It's just
it just seems whatever. Let's just finish the recap.
the show doesn't change if he was not working for her the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. Like he could have just been working for what's his face, the king of World 3 or whatever.
Kadan or Kadan.
Yeah.
Kadan. Yeah. So yeah, he wished for everyone to
even worked for Gomah and just turned on Gomah. Like that could have been a thing too.
Yes. They wish for everyone to be adults. One of the show's greatest moments happens as Vegeta goes to fight against Gomah, and he goes Super Saiyan 3 adult, and he's fighting, and he's like, I don't care, I'll fight till I die. And everyone's like, Vegeta, don't die. That's stupid. And Bulma's like, I got this, y'all. And she goes, Vegeta, if you die against him, I will never take a bath with you ever again. Vegeta flies back immediately, and he's like, fine, I'll stop.
I do like that they make Vegeta a simp for Bulma. That's pretty great.
Wife guy Vegeta is so awesome.
It's pretty good.
This just further has fueled my desire to have that sitcom that we pitched last time.
And it would be amazing.
Vegeta just wants to have soapy time with his wife. He comes home, he just wants to take a bath with Bulma, and he keeps getting interrupted by Kudu and Hibis. That's a show. That's an episode.
Hibis needs to be Bulma's like BFF for that show too, so he's always at the house.
Yes. And he's just always like, oh, okay, Vegeta comes home. He's all exhausted from a battle. He's mad that Kakarot has surpassed him again. Bulma's like, don't worry, I can make it all better. They're about to get like tender with each other. And Hibis has been in the room the whole time.
Just chilling, watching them, eating a snack, drinking some tea.
And he hits some, yes, that's how they find out. He takes a bite of his chips. And it's like really loud. And they're like, what are you doing? And he's like, I've been here the whole time.
Yeah. Don't stop on my account.
Anyways. What else happens in this episode?
More things that ultimately don't matter.
Oh, this is the episode. This is an episode where Ku proves useful. As Arinsu is attempting to flip through her magic book and find out what, if any, weaknesses the evil third eye has. Kua's reminders, I'm very fast.
He is indeed very fast.
And he flips through the book very quickly. He finds the page on the third evil eye, and he has to be smacked on the back of the head 3 times in succession. Which, okay, I mean, that's a very Toriyama kind of thing.
I like how the way to defeat the villain is a gag. It's just at this point in the they've been like going back and for like at no point in this fight were they able to just like hold him down and have someone smack him in the back of the head 3 times.
Yeah, and that's like you said, like I like the idea that the defeating him is a gag, but it doesn't actually feel super like a Toriyama gag to me, because a Toriyama gag to me would come out of nowhere. You know, like Goku would fly up behind him, pop him in the back of the head 3 times. The eye would go flying out. They would defeat him, and then someone would go, I guess the way to defeat him was just to pop him on the back of the head 3 times, cue the pratfall.
Or not even like 3 times, but just to like a good whack on the back of the head.
Yeah, like a cork.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that would be Goku's thinking. But like, well, if we got to get it off the back of his head, let me just smack the back of his head and it should come right off.
Yeah, and like pratfall. You know?
Exactly.
This is like setting up the gag, and a very stupid gag at that. The reason Toriyama's stupid gags work for me is because they come out of nowhere. Because you're just sitting there watching it, and then, stupid gag. And you're like, oh, that's so dumb, it's funny.
Yep. This
is like, hey, we're about to do something so dumb it's funny, and you're like, well, then it's not funny anymore.
And I think part of the reason why it doesn't work that well is because, like, they've just been punching him this whole time. Like, defeating him is just, no, you have to punch him in this specific spot a couple times.
Which we already just did with the superhero movie, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
You just have to punch Cell in the top of his dome.
Really hard.
Yeah. So, this also... Yeah. This episode also had a thing I really didn't like, where Goku just repeats the thing that he did against Majin Buu. This is Super Saiyan 1. This is Super Saiyan 2. This is Super Saiyan 3. And this... And then he goes Super Saiyan 4. Every character also is like, it can't be. And you're like, why can't it? You just saw it a minute ago.
It's like the showrunners were just like, hey, do you guys remember the thing? Do you remember this thing from the Buu arc? Do you remember it?
It also was like, hey, do you remember the thing that happened 1 episode ago where we unveiled this form? And everyone was like, nope.
What is this? I've never seen it before. I need an explanation.
And like, I mean, come on. That's like a gag that I would write for our show.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think
hey, remember this thing that happened? Remember this thing that happened last episode? Nope. Except it wasn't a gag. It was like for serious.
Well, yeah, because this is Dragon Ball, so you assume it's going to be popular. Whereas with our show, you have to. It's part joke, but also no. Most people probably don't remember what happened last episode.
Yeah,
especially with like Super Saiyan 4, which like a lot of fans know about, obviously.
Yeah.
So why, like, come on, guys.
Here again, you had a chance here to like contextualize Super Saiyan 4 in some way. Yep. And make it meaningful within the context of this show. Yep. And you didn't do it again.
Yep.
And so you're still, and this is where I have like some serious, this is where we'll talk about in a second, but you're still just relying on nostalgia from something else.
Yeah.
Which brings us to episode 20, which is half of an episode where a fight gets finalized that I didn't care about, and half of some of the very best gags and character stuff in this entire show.
Real mixed bag.
Yeah, we wrap up the fight. Okay, who cares? We then wrap up a lot of the story, and while I have some issues, some of this is so good. Who becoming the new Demon King, and him like enlisting Irinsu as his vice demon king or whatever, and saying let's make the demon world a terrifying and yet excellent place to live. So good. So good.
Yeah.
I loved that.
Yeah, I liked Ku becoming king of everything. That was a nice touch.
He suddenly like sprouts a magical cape. I absolutely love that. Everyone gets to like remain a minister because of their knowledge. Let's make the demon realm a better place. Let's make the demon realm like the demon realm of Sandland, basically.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Daima is a prequel to Sandland. No, I will not be taking questions.
Oh, of course. It makes so much sense now.
Good stuff. Really good stuff. I like he chooses a Rinsu and everyone's like, that's maybe a bad idea. And they're like, no, he's a good judge of character. I also really like that Do like is like gonna get just all the cookies he can eat to keep himself strong. I think the last gag of this show is super duper Toriyama-esque.
Okay.
When they go into the is this the post credits? This might be the post credits, I think.
Okay.
I think. They go back to the store where they bought all the bugs.
Yep.
Oh, speaking of, no one in this show has ever heard of Chekhov or his gun.
That's true.
But they go back to the store where they bought the bugs, and the lady is like, they're like, what are these? And she's like, oh, those are this item I have called Evil Third Eyes. They're supposed to make you really powerful. I sold one a long time ago. But I loved it.
Yeah, it's just some random object you can buy at a grocery store. Nice.
I liked that. That was a great joke.
Also, I like that, like, of course, the evil third eye, there would be 3 of them. That just, yeah. No, you're right. That's very Toriyama.
That was excellent. And so that's it for Daima. And yeah, that's all the stuff that we talked about. Like I love this show when it's like slice of life character stuff. And
yeah,
when it came time to bring it home with the action, even though it was really well animated and really pretty to look at, it really dropped the ball on doing storytelling through its fighting, which Dragon Ball
there was no, I don't want to say there was no stakes, obviously, because there were stakes, but like it just didn't have the same kind of impact that like the Raditz fight did, or the Nappa and Vegeta fight.
The stakes are also a little confusing. Like, okay, I get it. If Gomah becomes Supreme Demon King, the demon world won't get any better. But
yeah, but it's not like it'll get worse because he's already running everything.
Right.
So really, it's like we just don't want him to get more powerful because then we'll never be able to overthrow him.
Yeah.
Which, okay, I understand that, but
it's a little like the stakes are a little confused. It doesn't do enough of a good job of reminding you how not great things are in the demon world. To why we should want this guy overthrown.
The other part of it is like the only reason that the Z Warriors are there is because he came to Earth and messed with them first.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even know he existed. They had no idea the demon realm existed. None whatsoever.
Well, that's not 100% true because they knew that Dabra came from there.
Right, but they weren't like going there to look for a fight.
No, the demon realm to them was no different from them saying like, "Oh, he's from planet Poop Face."
Might as well have been.
Like, there's no difference for like they don't care what.
But it's
realm.
Like one of these storylines where like the villain causes everything to happen because he decides to preemptively strike against Earth's strongest warriors? Like what? And then like he doesn't even do it in a way that like keeps them from coming after them. He just turns them into children. And somehow assumes that like I guess their power decreases with that. I'm not even really sure.
They did try to justify that a little bit, I think, and saying that the dragon wouldn't grant an evil wish.
Yeah.
Because he's not an evil dragon.
But it's I don't know, because like you can hack the Dragon Balls, even though they're currently inert, to make your wish. You could have just made his wish and disappeared, and nobody would have ever known.
Right. He could have just wished for the third evil eye.
Yeah, he could have just straight up wished for the third evil eye, or immortality, like every other villain. Noticeably, he did not wish for hammer space, which I think is a missed opportunity.
I did like how they referenced the evil containment wave again.
Yeah, that was a good
neat. And then I also like, okay, can I sign up for the punishment that Gomah and Degesu have? Because being locked in a place with my buddy for 90 years playing video games and having all of our basic needs met sounds kind of awesome.
Yeah, they didn't even really punish him. Dude straight up wholesale stealing lives, like years of life from people. And then they're just like, I don't know, just lock him in a basement like a neckbeard.
Yeah, he just gets to play video games for the next 100 years.
Yeah, there's it breaks my heart because like they were setting things up for what appeared to be something different, and then just like undid all of this work that they did in their own storyline that just didn't make any sense. Once you watch it as a whole, it's just kind of like, well, what was the point of this exactly?
Yeah, and I don't care about this so much, but like, because I'm not one that cares about the canon or the continuity very much.
Yeah.
But it's very clearly is in its own third continuity.
It would seem that way. Although I have seen a lot of people arguing that it is in the main continuity.
I've seen people try to mind pretzel their way into that too, and I don't know. There ends up being too much sitting out there that doesn't make sense. Why are they still using Sensu if they have access to these Medibugs, which are affordable and not very limited resource? Why are they still using Fusion Dance if they have access to these Fusion Bugs? Why is Bulma attempting to collect the Dragon Balls to wish to be made younger when she has these access to these bugs that can do that for her? What about Super Saiyan 4? What about Vegeta having Super Saiyan 3? Because, at one point he fights against Trunks and Trunks is like, hey, how about you, go further beyond Super Saiyan 2 like Goku does, because I want to see you do that. And he's like, I can't.
Yeah.
Because people are like, oh, well, the reason Goku never breaks out Super Saiyan 4 in Super is because he knows it wouldn't work. I mean, okay,
what?
Not really.
Let me not use a form that makes me even more powerful than I am now, because there's no point.
Right. Vegeta would never hold back like that.
Yeah, no.
So
no, he wants to crush you with 100% of his might, and he wants you to know that you never stood a chance.
So there's a lot of stuff that like doesn't make sense and doesn't work and doesn't line up with Super. I don't care. I just feel like that's another thing kind of against the show a little bit.
Yeah.
Here's my concern, like we talked about already a little bit, sort of alluded to. This is my like larger concern with the future of this franchise is for, I don't know, 16, 17 weeks, this show was largely met with, okay, by most people.
Yeah.
Even the people that really liked it were, and at times I was one of them, at times I really, really liked the show, were like, oh, neat, cool, fun, I like it. Then they trotted out a nostalgic thing for people. And a lot of people really lost their minds and got very into it.
Yep.
Even worse, said nostalgic thing to me was not incorporated into the story in any kind of a way. Contrast that with, say, just to pick an example from Super, them using nostalgia, Yamcha getting cratered in the baseball episode.
That's peak cinema.
That's like, yes, that's a nostalgia. Yes, that's a callback, but it's incorporated into the story. It's used in a different way. It works. It not only works unto itself, it works both. It works both as a callback and unto itself.
Yeah.
It's still funny if you don't know anything about Dragon Ball Z and you just started watching it and you saw this character get blown up playing a game of baseball. That still works.
Yeah.
Another example, one that I take a more issue with, and I know a lot of people really hate it in Super, is the callback to Vegeta's final explosion in the Tournament of Power, where he does the final explosion again, but it doesn't kill him this time. That still works within the context of Super itself because characters are talking about it. They're commenting on it. They are saying, I've seen this before. It killed him when he did it.
Yeah.
And then he does it. It manages to eliminate Top from the tournament. It's a big moment. Whatever. It works both as a callback and unto itself within the story.
Yeah.
Slightly more reliant on the callback part, but it still does work unto itself. Super Saiyan 4 in the context of this show, to me, only works if you bring in your foreknowledge of GT and any nostalgia you might have for GT. And I worry that without Toriyama, because I would imagine his influence on this show sort of lessened as it ran on because of the obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I worry that that's what this franchise will become.
Yeah, and given what I've seen out of Daima, I would have to share those concerns.
Now, I will say, I still did like Daima. Overall.
Yeah, it's not like it's the bottom of the barrel of the entire like Dragon Ball IP. It's
Not even
still
close.
pretty good. The art's really good. The music's really good. Like you said, the character interactions and the character moments are really good. It's just they missed that magic where the fights are part of that storyline as far as like what the goals of the characters are.
The sauce is missing a little bit.
Yeah, it's missing a few ingredients is what it is.
And that's been Dragon Ball in a lot of ways since it came back, I understand. Like, I really like Super. I like Super more than this, more than GT. Super's like right after Z and Dragon Ball for me, I think. I think originally I said it'd be my favorite, but I kind of meant that more as like it's kind of my go-to because you can, I personally feel like you can sit and watch a little bit of Super and walk away from it more easily than you can watch. It's slightly more episodic feel
I get
to it,
you.
which
It's a little bit more fight of the week as opposed to like
which I like for rewatching because
right, because you get to something like the Frieza arc and it's like, all right, strap yourself in for 50 episodes of nothing happening.
Yeah, so I really like Super, but I will say everything Dragon Ball, and this includes like Battle of Gods, this includes the movies, which I think like Broly and Superhero are two spectacular movies in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But everything Dragon Ball since Evolution, essentially, has been Toei or Shueisha telling Toriyama, hey, here's what we are going to do. What do you think? And Toriyama saying, well, I don't know that I would do that. But if I was going to do that, here's how I would do it.
Yeah.
And them going with that from there. And that, I think, is where the sauce gets a little bit lost. Instead of just being like, hey, Toriyama Sensei, can you come up with a story for us for the next Dragon Ball thing? They are telling him, hey, come up with a story that does this.
Yeah, I get you. It's
And-
kind of like well, really any kind of media production where the people paying the bills are the ones that go, no, this is how I want it done.
Yeah. Now they give him a lot more leeway in a lot of ways, but
Because he's the golden goose.
I feel like you can tell the things he actually cared about doing and the things that he did just because he was supposed to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would point to Sandland as a really good example. It's you can tell that he really cared about working on that, and it was something that was actually important to him.
And even within Daima, you could tell that what he cares about is spending some time with these characters that he really likes.
Yeah.
And in this world that he enjoys, and having some fun and telling some jokes. And that, I mean, this has been said too about like his script for Resurrection F.
Mm-hmm.
Like he wrote all the dialogue, and then like the big climactic battle, his script says, and then they fight. Like,
with a little note in there for the animators, go nuts.
yeah, and that's like, I feel like this is like, he really wanted to, like, they were like, hey, we're gonna have all the characters turned into kids again, and we're gonna use it as an excuse to trot back out Super Saiyan 4. And he was like, okay, well, let me, whoa. Here's how I would do that if I were gonna do it. And he came up with this demon realm, and taking the person essentially who had been the villain in the very arc right before this and turning him into a gag character. Like, and I know he does that with Boo anyways, right? Later on, Boo just becomes a gag character, but yeah, it's still him playing with that motif, and the continuous softening of Vegeta and stuff like that. That's what Toriyama cares about. And then he writes, and then, you know, he fights the bad guy and goes Super Saiyan 4.
Oh, was that all?
Because this show, the action's really good, but once we got to the end battle, it is just action. It feels very context free, and it feels stakes free, and it just feels,
yeah, like there's just no like tension in the fight, at least from my perspective. I don't know if maybe other folks feel that way, but
and there's no storytelling within that fight, which is something that Dragon Ball is kind of like, I think, known for. I think that's what kind of separated it in the first place from a lot of other things, and how it kind of perfected the climactic fight of things.
Yeah,
was storytelling through fighting. That said, these are like amplifying my complaints in order to get them out there. I would say the reality of, like, however harsh I have sounded throughout the last 2 episodes of our Daima sort of recaps, take it down by like about half is where I actually feel. I'm just trying to give voice to the things that have sort of nagged at me and kept me at an arm's length.
It's one of those things where it's like, what's done well in this show is actually done really well, and there's really not much you can say other than good job. But then, you know, we do have these, some people would probably call it nitpicky. I'm not really going to argue against that. But there were some parts of it that weren't executed as well as others, and that's really the only thing that you have to talk about with this show, because ultimately the storyline doesn't really change anything as far as Dragon Ball is concerned. And like you said, it's just kind of a self-contained arc that doesn't really affect anything outside of it, and that really just kind of takes away from, I think, the impact that something like this could have had.
Yeah. And it just ends up being a fun little distraction, and this is where I hit on this as I was talking to our friend Lux about it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried to not talk about it too much, but ultimately where I kind of come down is the extent to which I like this. I like this on a similar level to some of the Matsuri Festival films.
Yeah, I could see that.
Okay. What thing am I more likely to rewatch if I'm looking for that level of enjoyment? A 50-minute movie or a 20-episode show?
You can watch a 50-minute movie. Let's be real. It almost feels like they were trying to mix more original Dragon Ball into something like Super.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it could have worked if there had been some changes in the storyline.
Yeah.
I think it could have done really well. But now it just feels like that's the impression they were trying to give you, and then they just back off away from that towards the end because they're like, well, this is not going to go anywhere, so we're just not going to bother.
Right. And I did a thread on this on our Blue Sky, and I think we're waiting for the Daima dub to come out, and then I'm going to rewatch Daima dubbed just to get that sort of kind of feel for it, and then I don't know, maybe we'll have like a sort of like roundtable discussion on Daima and see how we feel, 20 weeks removed from the end of it here. Because as of right now, we're like 2 weeks removed from the end of it. But if you follow us on Blue Sky, I posted an article where there was an interview with Akio Ioku, who is the president of Capsule Corp. And this guy used to be an editor at Shueisha and quit to go kind of strike out and be independent. He was very ingratiated with Toriyama. He believes that he like owns the rights to a lot of this stuff. And that he's like sort of the shepherd of this stuff now. He's the one who like greenlit Sandland without telling anyone else. But he gave this interview, and in this interview, he said three things that really, really struck me. One was that they started development of this show as a sort of distraction from the current continuity that they were working on, and at the time they were working on Superhero. So to me, that says that, yes, this was not intended to be part of the super continuity. It was intended to be a distraction. He also says that they came with the idea to Toriyama and asked him for his input, and then that's when Toriyama started writing more and more of it and taking over, kind of. Then that's very similar to what happened with Battle of Gods. In Battle of Gods, the script was already written. Beerus was like a malevolent lizard god who wanted to destroy the universe, and Goku had to go Super Saiyan God in order to stop him, and Toriyama came in and was like, "Beh. He's not a malevolent lizard god. He's a silly little kitty."
He's a cat who are classically indifferent about the destruction they wreak.
Yeah. So much better, by the way.
Yeah.
And then this Ioku also said the other thing that I really kind of struck me was that the episodes were in production before there were stories and script written. Not great.
Yeah.
For making something. That's how you get something that looks good but doesn't have a great story. And then the final thing he said, and this was the one that like really just it ground my gears, especially if you start reading between the lines on the sort of like marketing level speak going on here, that the show was designed with fans of GT who were now adults and had kids of their own in mind, and would appeal to people who had grown up with Dragon Ball GT, but would also not lose sight of the rest of the fandom and of appealing to kids and making new fans. Now, that to me says that basically they wanted to cash in on young people who grew up with GT, who have nostalgia for GT, but also keep in mind their 4-quadrant typical storytelling, appeal to as many people as possible, and be able to make as much money as possible, as crassly as possible. That is the sort of marketing speak that I see when I read between the lines on this. And people who are like big fans who really only pay attention to Dragon Ball might think that I'm being a little overly cynical, but the more you hear people like this guy, who this is the executive producer, who is trying to, I think, essentially make Dragon Ball be his brand, the more you hear people like that start talking, you see those same patterns come into their speech a lot of times. And it's like gobbledygook mumbo jumbo that hits a few nostalgic high points for a couple people to kind of trick them into thinking that this is made for you, this is made with fans in mind, and this gets the fandom essentially marketing the thing for them so that they don't have to do it. They weaponize our fandoms against us and against each other in order to insulate themselves from criticism, because this is for the fans. How do you not like this? This is for the fans. This is for you.
Yeah.
Be grateful for getting anything. And at the same time, it is a very calculated thing. It is not a spontaneous bit of creation. It's a very calculated, very we built a spreadsheet and we ran an algorithm, and it said that the number one thing people want to see is Super Saiyan 4 made canon. So let's figure out a way to do that.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just creative.
And that might be overly cynical of me. I'll admit that. But I see those things, and it triggers a lot of alarm bells from a lot of other things that I see. If you pay attention to James Bond,
I heard some stuff about James Bond this past week.
James Bond is now owned outright by Amazon. They bought it out from the Broccolis, who previously owned it, and they've announced, like, they haven't officially announced anything, but they're like, this is going to give us so many more opportunities to tell so many more stories, to tell spin-offs, to explore different, and it's like, basically, you're about to get, like, a Bond movie every year with a series about Moneypenny, a series about Q, a series about Bond as a young man before he became a spy, a series about MI6 and other agents, and like you're about to get like inundated with Bond content.
Yay!
And I worry about that for Dragon Ball.
We're
not there yet. We're not there yet. I don't know if we'll get there. Hopefully Toyotaru kind of maintains enough stroke maybe to be able to prevent that from happening completely or something. But I worry that that's where we're headed.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where you're coming from. I don't know if I'm quite where you're at yet. I think this is one of those instances where it's like, okay, I'm a little worried about where this IP is going. But yeah, I think it's still okay for the most part right now.
Yeah.
I can
red flags.
Yeah, no, I get you. And I don't think you're wrong necessarily. I just don't know to what degree those things will become truth.
Yeah. None of us do. So very quickly, if I were going to give Daima a grade, I would give it, on our scale, I'd give it 4 out of 7 Dragon Balls. I'd say it falls firmly into the realm of being more good than bad.
Yeah, similarly also 4 out of 7. Like I said, there's a lot of things that are done well. There's just certain parts of it that weren't done well. And the difference between the parts that were done well and the parts that weren't done well really kind of is a little bit head-scratching.
Yeah. But I did like it. I would say if you're a Dragon Ball fan, as much as I've kind of ragged on it a bit, and I think we both have, I would recommend it, actually.
I would say yes, I give it a recommendation. But I think it's more for folks who already really like Dragon Ball in general.
I agree.
I don't think this is definitely not something you show somebody who's new to it. You maybe want to show them some of the better stuff first. Yeah.
So anything else going on in our worlds, your world?
Picked up the new Monster Hunter Wilds. Okay. I've been playing that. That's a pretty good time. It's basically what it says on the tins. You go out in the wilds and you hunt monsters. And then you kill those monsters. And then you take parts from them and you go home and you make stronger gear. And then you go back out into the wilds and kill more monsters. It's a pretty well put together game and I quite enjoy it. Let's see, what else? Oh, not anime or video game related, but my significant other and I recently started the show Yellow Jackets.
Okay, I've heard good things.
It's pretty good. We're all caught up now. It's in its 3rd season. I would recommend the first 2 seasons. I don't know if I can recommend the 3rd season yet because we're only like a couple episodes in, but it feels like it's not quite the same with the 3rd season. So
Okay.
I guess my advice for that one would be cautious optimism for that show.
Okay. I don't know if I mentioned Creature Commandos on this show before.
Oh, love me some Creature Commandos.
Yes. GI Robot. We need someone to build an actual GI Robot.
Take him around and show him what modern America is like.
How many times throughout the only 7-episode run of Creature Commandos were you watching an episode and just all of a sudden go, whoa, that went way harder than it needed to all of a sudden?
Yeah, there was a couple instances like
that.
The
biggest example is the Weasel episode.
Oh, yeah.
Where I was watching that episode and all of a sudden by the end of it, I was like, this is like the most heartbreaking thing I've ever seen.
And they cap it off with him just like kicking in his sleep.
What
he's dreaming of chasing a rabbit.
So
meanwhile, you've just been emotionally gutted.
So I don't know if I had mentioned that before on this show. Creature Commandos is excellent.
Yes.
And it's only 7 episodes, so...
Yes, so it's easily watchable.
I haven't got into season 5 of Harley Quinn yet. I need to.
I haven't started that at all yet. Is it any good?
Oh, the first few seasons are excellent. And it's not even that any of the seasons were bad. It's just the 3rd one, I think, for me, just kind of was like, oh, this is still good, but... And then the 4th one was good again, and I'm like, it's good. It's all been good.
Okay, well, that's good.
We, as a family, finally finished reading The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, right on.
So we're gonna move on to, I think, Hunger Games next as a family.
Oh, you're not gonna make him watch the Hobbit movies?
I love my children, so.
So yes, is what you're saying.
I revisited those recently. I think I talked about that last time and they're just so much more boring than I remember.
Oh man, there's a lot of decisions made in those movies where I'm just kind of like, why?
Like I remembered them being bad, but then I rewatched them because I got the Blu-ray set for free. Like someone gave it to me. They're so much more boring than I remember them being. Oh, my kids have been Tremors fans for a long time.
As they should.
Ever since they saw the first one. And my daughter has now seen the first Tremors like 5 times. She's 10 years old.
Nice.
So she's doing things right. She was like, let's watch the other ones. So we watched the 2, 3, and 4. 2 is good. Like it's a significant step down from 1, but 1 and 2 are really good. 3 is okay, and then 4 I was kind of like, this isn't so good anymore. And I'd say it's like almost like diminishing returns, like in a very exponential decay kind of way of like the first one I think is like a 5 out of 5. Like I think it's a perfect monster movie.
Okay.
Just like I think the first Pirates of the Caribbean is like a perfect blockbuster movie. Right?
Okay.
Maybe not a perfect movie, but perfect for what it's going for.
Sure. Hey, I could see that.
Then Tremors 2 is a 3.5. Then Tremors 3 is a 3. And then Tremors 4 is like a 2.5. Like it just, it never gets
continually gets worse and worse.
It never gets bad in those first 4 things, but it does just consistently get worse.
Yeah.
But so yeah, we did that. What else? That's about, I did start, I think last time we talked about, I was thinking of starting audiobooks on The Dark Tower.
Oh, okay.
I did start that. I am 3.5 books deep. You've
read the books, right?
Oh, I've read them before, yeah.
Okay.
The guy who reads books 2, 3, and 4 is excellent. Frank Muller. He originally did the first one, but then and 2, 3, and 4. The first book has been revised a couple times to try and make it fit in a little better with the rest of the series. So the recent version of it is read by George Guidall. He's okay. He's good, actually. But Frank Muller is excellent. But he passed away between books 4 and 5.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
So book 1, 5, 6, and 7 are read by George Guidall. 2, 3, and 4 are read by Frank Muller. I'm about halfway through book 4. I was reading this franchise, rereading it, and thinking, Mike Flanagan, who's of Haunting of Hill House fame.
Yeah.
And Midnight Mass, and Haunting of Bly Manor, and Dr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep was an excellent movie.
Those are all the things that people might remember Mike Flanagan from. He is working with Stephen King on a series for The Dark Tower, like a streaming series.
Okay, because the movie was not great.
It was terrible. And here I'm rereading The Dark Tower just because I got the bug too. And I'm reading the first 3 books, and I'm like, you know what? I could read these with my kids. I'd have to change a couple things here and there. There's a couple, moments that are a little overly sexually suggestive, but I'm like, you know what? I could change those enough that everyone would still get what's going on. And then I get halfway, not even halfway. I get about a third of the way into book 4. And he has a creepy old witch lady fondle a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah.
In kind of explicit detail.
That's not going to hold up once you get to book 4.
in kind of explicit detail. Then he goes into kind of explicit detail on Roland and Susan making love. And then he goes kind of into explicit detail. And I'm like, oh, yep, nope, this is gone. Nope. Can't do this one.
Not doing that.
Stephen King loves, if nothing else, bad endings and horrible sexual moments.
Regarding underage children.
Yes. For those who are not Stephen King fans, go read it.
I mean, yes, because it's an excellent book, but yeah.
But be on the lookout for both of those things.
Listen, it was the 80s. He liked his nose candy. It was a different time.
It was the 80s.
Why do I feel like a lot of conversations these days start with, well, it was the 80s.
A group of underage boys running a train on an underage girl in the sewer was like more acceptable back then.
I'm glad they left that part out of the movie.
But so yeah, that's what we're up to. If you're listening to this episode when it comes out, we are in the midst of March Madness. So hope you enjoyed the first episode and hope you enjoy where our tournament goes from there.
I would like to think they're enjoying it.
I think everyone enjoys it. Probably. Everyone who's ever told me that they've listened has agreed with our winners of every tournament thus far.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yes.
Well, let's hope they're not disappointed with this one.
That's a lot to live up to, but I always forget if I end these with our usual fanfare. I probably do.
You could always do it, and then we can just edit it out later if we don't normally.
So
you would think people doing a podcast this long would remember what they typically do.
Well, we've only done 3 of these, so and we've done them quite far apart.
That's true.
And they're not our usual format. So will we figure out a way to do more casual episodes in the future and update you guys on what's going on in our lives? I don't know why I got Southern twang in there.
It's all that Texas.
Find out next time and help us achieve our final forum.
Final Form is written and produced by Tom Gwelly. It is performed by Dan Kinney and Tom Gwelly. Our webmaster is Dan Kinney. Our theme music is provided by YouTube content creator GVG Kit. Want to learn more about the Dragon Ball universe, including concept art, behind-the-scenes interviews, and recommendations from Jelli and Bekinney? Connect with us on social media. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Final Forum Pod. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you receive your podcasts. And of course, make sure to share it with your friends and family and help us spread the word of the glory of Lord Frieza. The Frieza Force thanks you for your listenership.